Hi and welcome to today's episode in which I have a go at making cannelloni for the first time ever. I was in the supermarket the other day and saw a box of cannelloni on the shelf. I don't think I've ever made it before, vegan or otherwise, so put it in my shopping basket and stuck it in the cupboard. Cannelloni are a pasta tube, a bit like a penne, I suppose, like a giant smooth penne. To cook them, you just stuff something inside, smother it in sauce and then bake it in the oven. So it's a nice straightforward thing to make. It's just going to be a bit of a process having to stuff each tube. So potentially an easy recipe, depending on your definition, I guess. I'm going to stuff them with a mixture of cannellini beans, silken tofu and vegan cheese. And then the sauce is going to be a nice, fairly simple tomato sauce with some onion in there. I think I'm going to do the sauce first because then that can just be on the stove gently warming just to get the flavours developing a little bit. I'm going to blend down 2 tins of chopped tomatoes. If you can find it or if you have it, use passata, which is effectively a smooth tomato puree. You could always buy a jar of sauce as well, like if you're in the UK, Dolmio. Can't think of any American brands, but you know, like a ready-made pasta sauce. But I always advocate for making it yourself because then you can control the flavour, especially the sugar and salt content. So I'm going to get these into the pan. I'm going to keep the tins to the side because if I need to add water, I'll swill the water in there first. Good grind of black pepper. And I'll do a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to keep the salt and pepper to a minimum at this stage and I can always add a bit more later. I'm going to use some MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's a really good way of getting savoury flavours in without packing more salt in. It's like 1/8 teaspoon to start off with. And then I might add a bit more at the end. And I'll do about 1/8 teaspoon or so of sugar, just white granulated sugar. Putting sugar in tomato-based sauces can help bring the flavour out of the tomatoes a bit more. I'm going to use some tomato puree. It's a very concentrated tomato type thing, so I'll do maybe 2 tablespoons. Blend this together. I need to blend the tofu, so I'm going to give this a very quick rinse. I'm going to do a teaspoon of dried mixed herbs. Use anything you like in there. Work that in. Ooh. Chuck a lid on it. This pan doesn't have a lid, so I just have to use whatever. I'm going to put it on the stove on, I think, a 2. I'm going to add some red onion and garlic into the sauce. I'm going to chuck them in raw because I can't be bothered sauteing things off, but if you've got the time and patience, feel free to fry these off first. You probably have to do it in a separate pan because you won't be able to blend you can blend it, but it's going to blend everything up together, whereas I want a little bit of texture in there as well. I'm going to do the onion on the mandolin just to make it fast. I'm going to try cutting into 4 or 5. And then just while I've got the board here, I'm going to peel the garlic as well. Garlic in the UK at the moment is tiny, so I'm probably using the equivalent of 3 or 4 normal sized cloves, but use however much you like. This is the mandolin I use. I think the brand is Ben Rinner. It's got a little post there that you can screw up and down, and that raises and lowers here. Kind of makes thinner or thicker depending on what you want. I'm going to put it on the thickest, I think. Slide the onion. You get little pieces like that. Put the garlic in the press and then just push down. And just mix this together. So that's mixed in. So I'm just going to let that very gently warm up. I made up this recipe just thinking about what I wanted inside, and then knew I needed a tomato sauce, and then thought I'll put some tomato and garlic in there as well, and looked on the packet, there's a recipe on there, so I kind of based the filling quantities and the sauce quantities on that. Whether there's going to be enough or too much filling, can't answer that yet. I'm going to use some silken tofu. This is the stuff that you'll get off the shelf, not in the fridge. It's a very soft type of tofu. It lends itself really well to savoury and sweet dishes. Very versatile product to keep in the cupboard. I'll maybe stick a few links to different types of recipes where I've used silken tofu, so you've got a few different ideas. I'll use some cannellini beans. I've gone for cannellini because they're a fairly mild flavour, quite a soft bean. The skin is very soft, so it blends up quite nicely. You could also use butter beans, chickpeas. You could use kidney beans, I suppose, but they've got quite a distinctive flavour. Not to say that's a bad thing, but just I wanted a fairly mild thing that will take on the cheese and herb flavour really well. These are a similar texture to like a baked Heinz baked beans. They use navy beans, which are also known as haricot beans, I think. I've snipped the top off the tofu packet and I'm just going to hold it over the sink because there is a little bit of excess liquid that I want to drain off. Gloop the tofu in. So it's got a kind of slightly gelatinous texture. It's kind of a bit bouncy. I've picked the ingredients partly for texture, like blendability, that kind of thing, and for bulk, but do feel free to just use the beans, I suppose, or just use tofu. And then the cannellini, I've opened the tin. I'm just going to drain off the liquid through the gap. I've drained the beans, but I haven't rinsed them because I think that little bit of moisture on the outside, because it's quite gloopy, I think that will help bind everything together. Get those in. So I'll go in with the blender again and then just get this down as smooth as possible. I'm going to clean the inside of the blade every so often, just in case there's any whole beans lodged up inside there. You could do this in a regular jug blender as well, maybe in a food processor, although you might not get it as smooth. The main reason I want to get it as smooth as I can is because I'm going to use a piping bag to get it in the tubes. And I think if they're full size, the beans, they're going to end up blocking the nozzle, which is going to slow me down. I'm going to give the sauce a stir whenever I remember, just so it doesn't cake on the bottom. This is the vegan cheese I'm going to use, Cathedral City plant-based extra mature cheddar style. This is a 280 gram block. Any bits that are too fiddly to grate, I'm just going to use a knife just to chop it down. Again, just so I don't block the piping bag. I'll get the cheese in. Start getting some flavour in here. Got a small amount of fresh thyme. That's just what I could salvage. Maybe half a teaspoon. Feel free to use dried as well, not a problem. Good handful of flat leaf parsley that I've chopped down. I've done stem as well as leaf. Probably 15-20 grams, half a cup. I've got some pine nuts, that's maybe a tablespoon, and some walnuts. Both of those are toasted. I'm going to chop them down a little bit, partly to spread them out and also to guard against blockage. Nuts are totally optional, I just had them lying around, so I thought why not chuck them in. Quarter teaspoon of salt. I'll probably need more, but the cheese is salty as well, so I don't want to overdo it to start with. Lots of black pepper. Gonna do some smoked paprika, that's probably half a teaspoon. Some dried marjoram, half a teaspoon or so. Start with half a teaspoon of garlic granules. Teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to use some nooch, nutritional yeast. It's got like a cheesy, nutty kind of flavour. 2 tablespoons. So give everything a mix together. Yeah, probably got too much filling here, but that's not a problem because I can either add some coconut cream or something, make a sauce, or stick it in the freezer and make some fresh ravioli. Although now I'm stirring it, it's compressed quite a lot, hasn't it? I just want to make sure everything's well combined, but I'm also trying to see if there's any bigger lumps that I think are going to be problematic. It's looking pretty good, so I'll give it a try. Touch more salt and pepper. We'll do another quarter of salt, and I think we're going to be good to go. What I'm after is for the filling to be somewhat mild in flavour, which will balance nicely with the punchy tomato flavour on the sauce. Yeah, job's a good one. This is the baking dish I'm going to use. It's 15 by 10 by 2. It's a bit too big, but all of the others are too small, and I would have ended up with a few tubes left over, and that would just be annoying in the cupboard. I don't know how crucial it is to have them kind of packed in tightly, so I might even put a couple of carrots in the side. I don't know, we'll see. Set up a piping bag. I haven't put one of the metal tips on because this is probably as wide as it needs to be. I can get that in the tube fairly easily. If you haven't got piping bags, you could try using a Ziploc bag or that kind of thing and cut a corner off it. That might work. I'd try and get a heavier duty one, you know, rather than a dirt cheap one, because you want something that's a bit robust, otherwise you'll keep bursting it, especially with quite a thick filling. I like to turn the bag over itself, just makes it a bit cleaner and easier to get it right in the end without getting everything covered. I've done maybe half of the mixture. I don't want to overfill it because it will make it difficult to use it properly. Having never done this before, this is going to be a bit of trial and error. So I'm going to take the end, squeeze everything down, and then these tubes are going to be fairly brittle, so be somewhat gentle with them. So I've squeezed it and I managed to get half in, but then it started blurting out the other end. So now I'm just going to flip it around. I'm going to stick the handle of this brush in and just try and pack it down a bit. 1 tube filled somewhat evenly. Put that in my dish. I'm going to try not covering that end. Maybe that will help. That's what I was worried about. Got a silicone one. I'm going to try it in there. I was just worried about bursting the silicone. Admittedly, it was a very cheap set I bought off Amazon. I'm going to try and not fill in the bag so much. Don't know if that's going to have any impact, but yeah, I think I should have just gone for the silicone to start with. Do you know what? I'm panicking that I don't have enough filling. I'm going to pipe the rest of them off camera because there's absolutely no need for you to watch me do 22 of them, and I can clean up and have a bit of a swear, and then we'll pick it back up as I'm ready to sauce. Tubes are filled. As I suspected, I didn't have enough filling. I've got 17. There were 22 in the box. And then there, I tried to cut a couple in half. Didn't go brilliantly, but it'll do. That's the remnants. So I just used knives to kind of crack little pieces off as best I could. And that's how much filling I've got left over. So there'd probably be enough for maybe another 1 or 2. In case it's not obvious, I've used a smaller dish in the end. Can't remember the dimensions of this one. I'll stick it on screen once I've washed it, because it's 8:15 at night and I haven't got time to be scrabbling around trying to make more filling. Looking at the recipe on the back of the box again, they've used things like mushrooms, onions and peppers. So I suppose that's probably bulking things out a bit more than I necessarily planned for. Not to worry though, it's still going to be amazing. And it means I don't have to find quite as much space in the fridge. Now we just need to finish off the tomato sauce, pour it over, and then cover it in foil and get it in the oven. About 5 minutes ago I realised I wasn't preheating the oven the way I should have been. It needs to be preheated at 180°C, about 350 Fahrenheit, in a fan oven, 20 degrees higher if it's not a fan. Yeah, I'd planned on doing it halfway through the shells, but because I realised I didn't have enough filling, all of my attention suddenly went on, this is a problem, what are we going to do? And forgot about the oven. I might extend the cooking time by 5 minutes or so. We'll head over to the saucepan. So I don't forget to tell you, I rubbed oil around the sides of the dish, inside obviously, not outside, just to help it stop baking on quite so much. Here we are with the sauce. I kept it on 2 this whole time. It's a very nice gentle heat. I don't know if I'll use all of this because obviously I'm doing a smaller amount. So I'm going to give it a try. Touch more MSG, touch more sugar. I'm going to do a splash of red wine vinegar. Box recipe uses white wine, don't have any. And I think red wine will be quite nice in there. Half a teaspoon and then try it. That a try. Spot on. Head over to the dish. Because I've never made this before, I don't know how much sauce to put on. I'm going to smother it. I was looking at images on Google to get thumbnail ideas, and some of them have got bare bits of pasta, but I wonder if they've cooked the tubes first, because if there's bare bits, I don't think they're going to cook super well. So I'm just going to drown them. That's the amount of sauce I've got left. I'm just going to pour it all on. I'm going to drizzle on a little bit of olive oil. This is what the box recipe said to do. I suppose it's an extra bit of flavour. I wouldn't bother doing this unless you're using good quality olive oil. Got a piece of foil. Cover it quite snugly and then tuck that in the oven. Set my timer for 24 minutes just to compensate for that lack of preheating. So you can probably do yours 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take it out, remove the foil. I think what's happening at this stage is almost boiling the pasta in all of that liquid. Then I'm going to take the foil off. That will help moisture escape and it will start reducing down. The box recipe says at that stage to put cheese on top and then bake it for another 20. I'm going to stick the remainder of this vegan camembert on there. Controversial, I know, fusing Italian and French together. Hey, that's how we roll. A lot of commercial vegan cheeses are made with starch, and if you bake it too long, it goes crisp, much more so than a regular cheese does, like a dairy cheese. I know that gets a crunchy, crispy top, but vegan cheese will go crisp all the way through, which I don't really want. So I think I'll do 10 minutes on its own, and then for the last 10 minutes put a very thin slice of this over the top of it. I might do 5 and then I can always extend it a little bit. That gives me a bit of safety because something like that's not going to burn because it's so wet. And then we'll do some eating. Our baked cannelloni is all baked and ready to be stuffed in our faces. I can see there's much less liquid up the sides now. Is it the most beautiful thing I've ever made in my life? No, but oh boy does it smell good. Pulled out what looks to be possibly 2, maybe 3 pieces. There's 0 chance of me eating this daintily, so shove it in one. Ooh, that tastes so good. It's like very comfort family type food, but nice and light as well. My memory of eating like a meat and ricotta stuffed cannelloni, delicious but really heavy really quickly because the silken tofu's in there along with the beans and the cheese. It is very light, there's nothing too heavy inside. The filling, as I hoped, is kind of cheesy but very light and fresh in flavour. And then that tomato sauce on top packs a lovely punch. I need to put it down, otherwise I'm just going to keep eating the whole thing while you watch me, and that's just a bit weird really. I had it in for 24 minutes as planned, took the foil off, stuck a skewer in just to test how the pasta was, and I could feel it was starting to soften but still quite firm. I took it back out after 15, stuck the skewer in and did the cheese on top, and then just kept an eye on it, and I think I had it in for 10 minutes, just making sure that the cheese wasn't going too dark or anything, and it's just melted really nicely. I wonder if that camembert, because it's designed to be baked so it goes gooey inside, it might have a slightly different formula than some of the other cheeses, maybe less starch. I suspect the bits around the outside are going to be slightly chewier because they've been in contact with the hot glass and also getting more heat, whereas the centre, lovely and soft and tender. I'll stick a couple of recipe variations down in the description for you as well, so have a look there if you want some other ideas. Because, you know, once you've got the base idea down, you can easily start adapting it, stuffing it with all kinds of different bits and pieces. To reheat it, I think it's probably going to have to be microwave, but that's not going to be ideal for the pasta. It's going to make it go quite tough. Maybe air fryer or oven, I suppose. I've got a fair few portions there, so over the next few days I'll maybe try a couple of different ways of reheating it and update the pinned comment. It might be quite nice to do that kind of thing in little individual tins, especially if you're a single person. Small tins that you can maybe get, depending on how much you eat, 2 or 3 things in the bottom. As always, I'm going to say hello and a great big thank you to my community over on Patreon. Their financial support helps me buy ingredients and gives me a bit of support to get the things I need to get in order to get videos out to the wider world. If you'd like to show a bit of financial appreciation and in return get some bonus content, behind the scenes, community chat features, all of that kind of stuff, I'll link to my Patreon down in the description for you. If you'd like to get lots more vegan recipe ideas, like this video and subscribe to the channel, look for a bell icon and tap it. That way you'll get an alert as soon as a new one's published. I promise there's the odd video every now and then where nothing goes wrong. Every now and then. While you're waiting for the next one, have a look at this.